I'm Nate Eaton coming to you live from Texas. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to give this a minute because I'm trying something new tonight. Obviously, I don't have our fancy equipment here with us. I just want to be sure that you can see us. And if you can, let me know. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions about this case, I'll explain why I'm here. You can hear. Okay, it looks like I'm going out live over the universe. This is Courtroom Insider, and tonight I am in Texas with my wife Erica. We are headed overseas tomorrow to a wedding, and we have a layover here in Dallas tonight. And so we've actually been here most of the day, and we have been having a really good time. We just had some really spicy Mexican food, and we've explored in and around Dallas, and we love it here. But because we were traveling a lot of today, I was able to listen to most of the testimony, and there was so much there. I thought I have to jump on and do a recap with you tonight. And so that is my intent, to go through what happened today in court. I have to give huge props to Caitlin Hart, my colleague. She listened to every single word of the testimony today. She was doing live updates all day long. She was keeping you up to date on Twitter. If you're not following her, or on Facebook or X, go follow Caitlin Hart, reporter. She did a really good job. I think that I don't need to go to court anymore. She's got it. She's good. She's got it. Yeah, so big thanks to Caitlin. Tomorrow, my colleague Kalama Hines, he will be keeping you up to date as the court proceedings go on. Don't know if I'll be able to do a Courtroom Insider tomorrow because we will be in another country. But if the internet holds out, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it will work. So that's kind of why I'm here. And in a few minutes, Erica might pop in and say a few things. So why don't we get straight to today? I believe I can share my screen with you. Again, I'm trying something new, so let me share my screen, and we'll go through what happened today in court. So there we go. We'll make this large. And I'd love to know your thoughts. Okay, I hope you can see that. Let me know if you can. We are going to talk about Colby's emotional testimony. Okay, I don't think that that's popping up. So let me try this one more time. Share window, small. Okay, thank you for being patient with me and my technical things as I try this a new way. Okay, that's not gonna work. That says share a window. Okay, I might just have to not share the screen. Okay, sorry about that. While I'm trying to figure this out, let me know what your thoughts were of the testimony today. What did you think? Did anything stick out to you? Anything that really caught your eye, caught your attention? Well, it's not gonna work, and I don't want to waste your time. So let me turn that off, and I'm gonna have the presentation here in the background, and we can go through exactly what happened here today. And you can just pretend that I have graphics, amazing graphics going over my shoulder. And we are going to talk about tonight 5 witnesses who took the stand, the babysitter who testified, who watched JJ, Tylee and JJ's school activities, Colby's emotional testimony, the call where Colby confronted his mom. Do you remember that? That was played last year. It was not played this year in the trial. At least it hasn't been played yet. He could be called again to testify about that call. David Warwick, Melanie Gibbs' husband, he testified today. That's where things left off at the end of the day. Of course, we'll remember JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, and then I'll try to answer as many questions that I can that you all sent me. Now, I want to show you a video that someone sent me, even though I wasn't at court today. I appreciate all the court people that helped me out, helped me to report. Some video of, this is how we first knew that Colby was on the stand today. We have video of him walking in the courthouse from this morning, and that was before the day began. So obviously we had an idea that Colby was going to be on the stand. Here's another interesting piece of video. Look who this is. Carrying in dry cleaning. That's John Pryor. Many of you have asked, where does Chad Daybell get his clothes? Right there. John Pryor bringing in the dry cleaning. Unless John Pryor keeps his clothes at the courthouse, which I doubt that. So Chad has had a variety of different outfits, and his attorney gets them for him, it looks like. And the reason that so many defense attorneys have their clients dressed in quote unquote normal clothes is to make them look relatable to the jury, to make them look like they're not a felon, that they're not a suspect, and to help them see that, maybe they're just a normal person. Because when you see somebody in those orange clothes, those orange outfits, that you might have some preconceived notion in your mind. So just a little bit of interesting tidbits of what was happening outside the courthouse this morning. Today, we had 5 witnesses on the stand. They went through these witnesses fast. They were really moving, and they had an extended lunch break because they were moving so quick. Retired FBI agent Doug Hart was on the stand. He finished up his testimony. Sydney Shank, she testified in Lori's trial as well. She was the babysitter that Lori met when Lori moved to Rexburg, and Sydney watched JJ one time, and then they never reconnected again. The dean at BYU Idaho took the stand in a brief testimony, basically testifying that Colby Ryan was never enrolled at the university there in Rexburg, even though Lori told multiple people that Colby was going to school there. We also heard from Colby Ryan, as I mentioned, and from David Warwick. So let's kick off Doug Hart. He talked about Lori and Chad's first big fight, and it was on text message. There was some sort of disagreement, and it was the weekend of August 7th, 2019. Chad said his heart was crushed because they had had a fight, and Lori was texting with Melanie Boudreau, her niece, and basically telling Melanie that they were not going to be able to go to Rexburg that weekend because they were having a fight. And I want to read to you the text that Chad sent to Lori. Good night, saddest day of my life. About half an hour later, he sent, Grandpa Keith is here. I'm supposed to warn you that you are unprotected. The angels are angry that you are ignoring me. I told him to go back, but he says he isn't allowed to. I'm honestly not trying to manipulate you to respond, but I understand that you need space. But they say you have cut me off, and the protection I built around your house is gone. I love you and don't want you getting attacked. They said if you at least give me a emoji, it will restore our connection enough to give you some protection. Doug Hart, the FBI agent, said that is clear sign of manipulation. Chad manipulating her after this argument. Lori responds, I love you. Chad then responds, thank you, my love. I will get things restored. Doug Hart said that these two were using manipulation back and forth with each other all the time. The next day after that, Lori sends him a picture of her in a yellow bathing suit and says, surprises are waiting. So this is what he meant with him manipulating her, then her manipulating him. The manipulation continues when Chad says on August 11th, 2019, so Charles Vallow's been dead for about a month, partly why I'm so sad is my Boise trip has turned into a trip with extended family. Not happy about it. Lori says, how much more of this can you take? Chad responds, by the way, Tammy's alive at the moment at this time. Chad responds, they want to go to Craters of the Moon National Park. I can't take much more. So trapped. Lori responds, are we supposed to wait forever? That's when Chad was on a vacation with Tammy and his family. Chad then tells Lori, no, but the next 2 days will be torture. Thankfully, I will be alone most of Wednesday and beyond. Lori says, is that what he wants, meaning God, for me to sit around waiting for you endlessly and you miserably wasting time? It just doesn't feel right. Chad says, I'm so frustrated. I'm sorry, honey. Lori responds, you can't just keep tearing my heart out. I really can't take it anymore. I'm sorry. If you really loved me, you wouldn't want that either. You should give all of your love and attention to your wife and family. I'm just a distraction. Go have fun with your family. I really want you to. I just can't be in the way anymore. If things change, then we can talk, but we have nothing until things change anyway. Okay, so back and forth, back and forth. A lot of you said this sounds just like middle schoolers, back and forth. One manipulates the other manipulates the other, back and forth. Chad responds, "Oh, honey, this is so crushing. I feel so destroyed inside. You know my love for you is deep and real. I want change. I'm constantly begging for change. I want you. Nothing else matters, but I am hindering your life, and you deserve better. I love you so immensely. But I will leave you alone, as excruciating as that will be, until I hear from you." Lori says, "You can't say to me nothing else matters, because everything is before me. If that's what the Lord wants, then I just need to do something else. I'm in, so I can pull myself out of this deep despair. It's not like me. It has to be this way. It's the way too much. It's been way too much for too long. The pain is unbearable." Okay, and back and forth, and back and forth, and Chad and Lori. And again, Tammy Daybell's still alive. Chad's wife, and Charles Vallow's been dead for about a month. And Chad says he feels trapped. Now, the prosecutor finished questioning Hart, and then Pryor got up, and they talked about the James and Elena love story. We talked about that last week. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. It'll be your good night reading for tonight. But the Pryor tried to make the point, or ask Hart at least, Chad Daybell was an author, and authors take liberties with what they write. They sometimes embellish. They really stretch the truth, perhaps. They, exaggerate a little bit. Could Chad have been doing that? And Doug Hart said, well, not really, because there were so many of these text messages. He said there was graphic text messages about them fondling each other and being together, and having these sexual rendezvous, and they text each other about it and send each other photos. And then Pryor asked about light and dark and how many people were in this group. And Agent Hart said there really was just Chad, Lori, and Alex Cox. Those were the three main ones. But on the periphery, there were more. There was Zulema. There was Melanie Boudreau, Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Audrey Baratario, a couple of others. So you had the main group and then this external group that maybe there was about 10 in total. It will be interesting if we hear from all 10. We've heard from several already. We heard from David Warwick today. So after the testimony of David Hart, Sydney Shank got up. And Sydney was a babysitter to she was actually a BYU Idaho student. Imagine being that babysitter. You're going to school in Rexburg. She put out on an app where you can book a babysitter. She put out that she was looking for work and her schedule. And Lori Vallow reached out to her through text message and said, "I'd love if you could come and babysit my kids and or my one child." And Sydney testified about going over there and watching him one time. And she said JJ was a happy kid. He did have special needs, and he often would play outside with the kids. And after they had the one encounter with babysitting, she had said that she would love to babysit again. And Lori said, okay, and then followed up with text saying, well, JJ's going to Louisiana. I'm going to Hawaii, but we'll be in touch in about a month. And there was nothing that came of it. And so her testimony was quite short. John Pryor did on cross-examination ask, did you ever hear the word zombie used? And she did not. Asked a couple of other questions, and that was about it. The next witness up was Josh Wilson. He was the principal of Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg. And he was there when Lori moved in, and she went and enrolled JJ. And he testified that Lori told them, the school, that JJ's dad had a heart attack and died. And there was some paperwork that was not completed, according to Mr. Wilson. And he tried to reach out to Lori to get her to finish that paperwork. And she said, well, we're actually moving to Louisiana. He said, great, where can I send his records to his school? And she said, well, he's going to be homeschooled. And that was basically it with his testimony. And then Wynn Hill, so these witnesses were boom, boom, boom. I mean, some were 5 minutes. And believe it or not, we are already up to 15 witnesses as of today. Not bad. Lori Vallows had 59. So if that's the case, we're maybe a third of the way done, a little less than a third of the way done. If on the prosecutor side, Win Hill was the dean at BYU Idaho. The police asked him to do a record search to see if Tylee Ryan, Tylee Cox, or Tylee Vallow. They asked them to search all of those names, and none of those names were in the system. And so she was never enrolled as a student. Next up was Colby Ryan. And there was a part of the testimony, if you haven't watched, toward the beginning where Rob Wood asked Colby if he knew who the girl was on the screen. He put up a picture of Tylee. And he had to pause for a moment. He got emotional and started to cry. And he said, "That's Tylee. That's my sister." Then he put up a photo of JJ. He said, "That's JJ, my brother." He explained the relationship about his relationship with his siblings, his father, who was from Lori's second husband, and then Joseph Ryan ended up adopting him, but then he died in 2018. He talked about how Tylee was getting money from them, and he talked about Tylee was getting money, and then she would send it to him. And then he discussed how on the night that Charles Vallow was shot and killed, the day that he was shot and killed, Lori texted Colby and said, "Your dad had a heart attack and died." He then went over to the house around 7:45 that night, and Tylee opened the door crying. And he noticed that Alex had a bandage wrapped around his head. And he asked Alex why he had a bandage on. And he said, "Well, I shot your dad out of self-defense because he came at me with a baseball bat." And he said Lori was acting so weird, just so different, just in a big hurry. And she gave a real quick version of what apparently happened. And it just didn't make much sense to him. Well, he said that Tylee would often send him money through Venmo, and that continued even after she died. But he said the last message he got from Tylee was on, let me find it, September 8th. That's the night that police believe Tylee was killed. Colby texted her phone asking her to send money. Tylee responded. Colby didn't remember exactly what she said, but the last text he received from her said, "I love you and I love the girls," assuming that was Tylee that sent those texts. Rob Wood asked Colby if he ever talked to Lori about Tylee's Social Security money. Colby says Lori told him after Charles's death that Tylee's money was going to be everybody's money. Colby asked how Lori was going to take care of JJ and Tylee, and she said she was going to work and use Tylee's Social Security money to make it through. He said they were always struggling for money. There was always an issue about where money was going to come from. Colby said the last time he saw Tylee was also the last time he saw JJ. He did not know that they had moved to Idaho. In fact, he did not know that Lori was remarried until he saw the news release about JJ and Tylee being missing, and that their mother and her new husband were not cooperating with police. He learned it on the news, like you and I learned about it. And he couldn't get through to her. She wasn't taking his calls. So around Thanksgiving time, so put this timeline together in your mind. Lori moves to Rexburg beginning of September 2019. Tylee goes missing about a week or so later. 2 weeks after that, JJ goes missing. They're both dead by mid-September. There's all of October. That's when Lori goes to Hawaii after the attempted shooting of Brandon and after Tammy Daybell dies. Well, she's in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell dies. Then Lori and Chad get married, beginning of November. And now it's Thanksgiving. And a few days before Thanksgiving is when police go over to her house, her townhouse in Rexburg, and ask where JJ is. And by this point, they're following them with the Jeep. And they are trying to make sense of what's going on here. Colby said he tried to call Lori on Thanksgiving, but she did not respond. I mean, imagine not picking up for your own kid on Thanksgiving Day. A couple weeks later, she sent him an email telling Colby everything was fine and she had Jesus on her side. So that is when he heard from his mother. And again, she did not tell him that she had a new husband. He learned about it on the news. Now, when Pryor got up to testify or to cross-examine, he asked Colby about his mother's personality. Was she like a wallflower, was his word, reserved, kind of held back? Or was she boisterous and outgoing? And he said she was a little bit of both. And he asked, could she be heavily influenced by people? And he said it would depend. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And I think John Pryor was trying to get him to say that his mom was not heavily influenced by people. She was her own woman. She did her own thing, and she knew what she was doing. But right after that, Rob Wood got up on cross-examination and said, do you believe your mom could have been heavily influenced by Chad Daybell? And he said, absolutely, 100%. She could have been influenced by Chad Daybell. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago that we did not hear the phone call from Lori, the phone call that Colby made to Lori, which is just crushing. It's about 10 minutes long. They played it at the trial of his mom. They didn't play it today, but there is a chance that they will play it in the future. And so I want to play it for you now if this works. Let me know if you can see it and hear it. Okay, apparently it's not playing through, so I'm sorry. I thought that I had this figured out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play it on here, and you can hear the audio. And that should work out better anywhere. We got this enhanced. They played this at the last trial, as I said, and we got this audio enhanced, so hopefully it comes through here pretty clear. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? You think you can hide from me? I'm not hiding. You just said that. Probably because you murdered my siblings. It's probably why it's bugging me. Maybe you should understand. I didn't. I'm sorry that you feel that way. You didn't do anything, right? I prayed for you in my worst moments. I prayed for my siblings who swore to me were okay. I thought I could trust you. I thought that you were a completely different person. I don't know a murderous mother. You can make judgments when you weren't there and you don't know what happened. What happened? Everyone's making their own judgments. Mom, you've been shoving BS on my throat for a very long time. I'm going to talk to you. It could be that. Hey, listen to me. I'm not saying. Listen to me. Fine, listen to me. I sat there and prayed. I can't tell you the amount of pain that I felt from your decisions in Jesus Christ's name. It kills me to watch you sit there and tell me this is a trial. It kills me to watch you take the victim's route and say that this shouldn't have happened to you.
when you are telling me that you had a baby came into your life, and all of a sudden, everything changes. And I'm talking about my spirit feels this. I prayed. I trusted you. I gave you every chance I could, past my own limitations as a human being. I pushed past all of everything to try to get to you, to help my own mother. You lied to me, specifically to me, more times than I can count. To know that they're gone and you knew, and my phone is being texted by my little sister, who's not even alive, my little brother, who's the sweetest little kid ever. For what purpose? Can you tell me that this is God's will for my whole family, including my stepfather, to be dead? After everything that you try to tell me, you can tell me right now that Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world, is on your side. You tell me that with all conviction in your heart that Jesus Christ is on your side right now. Please. I can't tell you that. Say it. Say his name. Say that he told you. And you followed him like exactness. Because I have prayed for you. I sat there and tried my best to forgive you and Chad and Alex. And I was deceived. And I was broken by my own mother. What are you doing? What are you doing? I prayed to Heavenly Father, and I said, you tell me, Father. I have all made these judgments. They think they know what happened. They think they know what happened. They think they know what's possible. Do you know that you told me? Do you know what you told me? You weren't there. So you're right. I wasn't there. I was kept. That's right. And one day, you will know. Murder. One day, murder. You will know what actually happened. You're right. Because you know what, Mom? And we all will stand there with everything. You're absolutely right. He will convict the people who act in his name with pure blasphemy. This is funny? This is funny? This is funny. You're laughing. Like, this is funny. How come your camera's on, Mom? You don't want to look at me in the eye? Why can't you look at me? It's just me. I'm in my house alone. I love you. I always will. One day you will see, and one day you will understand. Go ahead and hang up. See how that works for you. You gonna hang up? I don't have anything else to say. You obviously don't know. You weren't there. You weren't there. Summer wasn't there. My mom wasn't there. The police weren't there. The FBI weren't there. Nobody was there. Kylie and JJ, Mom. Yeah, it just they know. They know exactly what happened. And they love me. And we're still together forever. They love me. And they are fine. And they do know the truth. And I know the truth. And we're the only people that do. So you can judge me, Colby, all day long. Go ahead and judge me. The whole world has. The whole world has judged me. Listen to me. They don't know, and you don't know. You know what I've been through, and you didn't even give a crap what they've been through. Nobody does. Except for me. I'm the one that knows. I'm the one that was in the hospital with Kylie for hundreds of days watching her suffer. I'm the one that was there doing everything with JJ every day. I was the one who did it all these years. You did it all to throw it in the garbage. They're not. You don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. Freaking matter what happened if they're buried in your new husband's backyard. Tell me that matters what happened. You tell me that you did this in Jesus' name, Mom. I have to hear that. You believe it, that you are not afraid. Every witness of Christ will scream his name when he comes back. So you are that person. I am that person. I am that person. And he will come back. Oh, yeah, Colby, because that's what it is. Okay. You don't even know. You weren't even there. When I asked you about Friday in October, what did you tell me? What did you tell me? What lies did you feed me? Why would you lie to me if you're with the Lord and you've seen him, and I'm just talking purely to you, and you've seen Jesus Christ, where's fear? Why wouldn't you tell me something? Why were you afraid? Why is everyone against you? Why is everything against my mom? You can ask me all you want. One day, we will all stand there with Jesus. We will all stand there with Jesus, and you will know the truth of everything. Not for me. You're telling me that this was all done in light. Say it. Tell me that this was done in Jesus' name.
Expedia helps you find the right time to book.
That was played in court. The sniffing you heard was Colby on the stand, because he was on the stand when he had to testify and that call was played. He had to authenticate that it was him. Sorry that the words are flipped. I'm using a computer camera, so that may have been hard to read the captions. But you can go watch that or listen to it if you want to hear it on our YouTube. So many of you were saying in the comments, why didn't they play the call? Please play the call. I don't know if they plan to play it later or if because it really wasn't in relation to Chad. I mean, it was. Chad was mentioned. Colby mentioned that the kids were found on his property, but Chad wasn't on the call. But that's a memorable moment from Lori's trial that I think the jury hasn't forgotten, that phone call that Colby made to his mother. So again, that was not played today. Just want to say that for those of you that may have, wondered about why we didn't hear it. After Colby took the stand, David Warwick took the stand. David is Melanie Gibbs' husband, former boyfriend. He talked about the first time he met Chad was at a meeting in Rigby, Idaho, which is about 15, 18 miles south of Rexburg. A group of guys got together and started talking about darknesses in the world. I have heard about this meeting before today. I had heard that one of the participants felt that they could give a blessing to the computer when the computer was malfunctioning and that the computer would be healed or would start working. And again, these are from people that were at the meeting, and that there was a bunch of other stuff like that happening at that meeting in Rigby. I don't know if it was that specific meeting, but the people involved in this group, some of the men who David Warwick testified to today were involved in another meeting, and we spoke with someone who was there that witnessed what was happening at the meeting. Years ago, I spoke with them. I don't remember all of the details, but it was kind of out there. Then we hear about Julie Rowe, the energy healer, and how Julie Rowe visited Rexburg, got together with Chad. David witnessed it. Apparently, this is when the whole leadership of the 144,000 came, and Julie Rowe was telling Chad that her vision of how she foresaw the last days unfolding, that on this plot of land, this is where the tents would be set up, and this is where the saints would gather, and this is where the righteous would live and dwell. David Warwick said he disagreed with the teachings. He never felt comfortable with it, especially as Chad would try to, I can't think of a better word other than groom him, saying this is what's meant to be. He said, no, if this was meant to be, you wouldn't be telling me. Like the prophet of his church, he believed the prophet of his church would be saying stuff like this. He talked about the last weekend that JJ was alive. He and Melanie were in Rexburg. David came up to Eastern Idaho to go see his son who had moved to Pocatello. He said he was going to get a hotel in Idaho Falls, but Melanie said, just come and stay at Lori's, save yourself some money. There's a bedroom here. He didn't see Tylee at all that whole weekend. He talked about going to the Book of Mormon conference, and then he talked about trying to connect with JJ. He has a son who has Down syndrome, and JJ was really into a game, so he kind of tried to connect with him, but it really didn't work out. I mean, they kind of chatted briefly, but he said that on their last day there, the night before, I should say, before he and Melanie and Lori went to record a podcast, JJ was there, and he saw Alex walk out of the townhouse with JJ over his shoulder, or walk out of the room with JJ over his shoulder, and JJ was wearing red pajamas, and JJ was asleep. And the next morning, as he got up before he left, he asked where JJ was. And Lori said, actually, I'll read you directly from his testimony. He said, the following day when he woke up, Warwick said Lori was in the kitchen and she was being, quote, a little dramatic. Warwick told her they were leaving and he wanted to say goodbye to JJ. But Lori said he was, quote, out of control, so Alex had to come and get him. David says Lori was talking fast and acting nervous, saying JJ was climbing on cabinets. Lori said that JJ had pushed a picture of Jesus off the wall. David didn't believe it because there were no scuffs or damage to the cabinets. Lori told David that JJ was, quote, having a possession attack, and she couldn't handle it. And that was the last time that night before when JJ was seen alive. That was that same night that David had said he had that horrible nightmare. He woke up and had that horrible dream. And Melanie went to get Chad and Lori for help. After he said that statement, John Pryor got on the stand and started to talk about the cross-examination, whatever questions he wanted to ask. He talked about David going around and doing these fireside chats where he would share his experience. John Pryor asked him if he spoke about his visions, and he said that he did. He said that he had visions and would share them when he felt it was appropriate, and that let me just read this. Warwick says the purpose of the fireside chats was to help people seek God and create a better relationship with God. Pryor asked Warwick if he has had visions about being invaded by foreign powers, and Warwick says yes. Warwick said he spoke about the visions when it felt right in his heart. Pryor asks if that is because his LDS faith that he felt the need to talk about his visions, and that's when Rocky Wixom, the deputy prosecuting attorney for Fremont County, objected. After the objection, they went up, and Warwick spoke about his visions and said that what he shares is consistent with his LDS faith. And then Pryor asked if Chad Daybell had visions that would be consistent with the LDS faith, and Warwick said yes, it could be. So a lot of you were saying, why does he keep asking about Melanie Gibb? Melanie Gibb, Melanie Gibb, Melanie Gibb. Obviously, John Pryor has said in this trial that Melanie Gibb is a key witness, the key witness in this trial. So he's going to do everything he can to try to discredit her and get the jurors to think that she cannot be trusted and that she, should not be believed. And so that is why he's doing that. And then Pryor wrapped up, but for the day at least, David Warwick will be back on the stand first thing tomorrow, continuing his testimony. And then we will hear from other witnesses. So that is what happened today. My report from not being in the courtroom, but reading Caitlin's wonderful notes and also watching the live stream, most of it. And you can go on and watch, the testimony of today. I don't have their photos here, except you can kind of see them over my shoulder. There's Tammy and there's JJ and Tylee. I would want to remember them today, especially as his babysitter took the stand and as Colby took the stand and testified about his wonderful siblings and how he has lost his entire family. And so tonight we're thinking of them. I do want to read some questions and some shout outs, and then I think Erica wants to come and say something, or I've asked Erica if she wants to say something. Okay, shout outs. Thank you to all of those who support East Idaho News by watching this and watching our live stream and participating. I hope that you're learning and that we're doing this story justice. But these are some people I want to shout out tonight. Elizabeth Garson, George Carter, Audie Spell, Allison Brizzy, Penny Worley, John Murdoch, Wilma Carr, Patricia Layton, Sandy Hiskey, and Carrie Long, watching from Grapevine, Texas, which is right where Erica and I are staying tonight. We're actually in the next town over. And so we drove through Grapevine today, and I said, this is such a beautiful area. We love it here. We're actually in Westlake, Texas for tonight. And then Corrine Kikira from Rio de Janeiro. Wow. Hi. Thank you so much for watching there. I'm keeping hydrated here. Okay, some questions. Can you please explain how the same judge that heard Lori's case is now hearing Chad's? Was this a choice by Judge Boyce or the prosecutors? Just wondering, Jerry. Well, Jerry, Judge Boyce is the district judge in Fremont and Madison counties. In the 7th District of Idaho, which is the eastern Idaho portion of the state, there are several districts, judges, and they're each assigned to a county. Excuse me. They're assigned to the whole district, but they each have jurisdiction. They each work in a particular county, and Judge Boyce works in Madison County and Fremont County. And because that's where the crimes happened, he was assigned the case. That's how it was. Originally, these cases were combined, and so we would have had one trial with both Lori and Chad last year had the timing worked out, but it didn't work out, and so that's why there's two trials. But the prosecutors didn't request him. It's just how it happened. He's the judge. Excuse me. Okay, this is from Germany. Hello, Nate. I send greetings from Germany, and thank you for doing Courtroom Insider. I visited some trials in Germany, and for me, it's really interesting to see the differences between those and the way they do them in the U.S. I watch the court stream every day. It starts at 4:30 p.m., so I can watch after work. Awesome. I've also installed the East Idaho News app, thinking I'm the only one for miles around. Good for you. Thank you. You can keep all up to date on what's happening. Do you feel safe there? Yes. Other than this coughing attack, I feel safe. My question is, how can Chad be charged with Tammy's murder? Are there toxicology results that speak against a natural cause of death? There is a medical examiner who testified that Tammy died of asphyxiation. And so it would be hard to asphyxiate yourself. And so that is why he's charged with her murder. And it wasn't like anything. A lot of people thought there was poison in her bloodstream. There wasn't anything found like that, but that's how it is. But also keep in mind that in jury selection, they made the point, which was kind of smart. Lindsey Blake would say to the potential jurors, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Do you think every person on that team should get a Super Bowl ring? Even the people that never play? Even the people that are in the locker room? Even the quarterback? Yes, everybody who was on the team should get the ring. And she was saying that even if the participants of these crimes, the main people, may have had a bigger role versus others, are they all on the team? Did they all should they all get the Super Bowl ring? Basically making that analogy. So you don't have to do the physical act in at least in Idaho, I think all across America, for first-degree murder, you don't have to do the physical act. But if I give my wife $1 million to go kill somebody, and there's proof that I did that, I can be charged with murder as well. I hope that answers your question. Alexandra Schittelbach. Did Tammy ever suspect Chad and Lori were having an affair? That's from Ben. I've talked to her family, and if she did, she never told them. But apparently, according to Chad and Lori, she became dark, or she became a zombie when she started to ask questions or started to suspect something. So I don't know if we'll ever know that. There is no sign that Tammy ever confronted them that we know of about having an affair. So I don't think so. Becky asks, where are you going this week, and why aren't you in the courtroom? Good question, Becky. We have some really good friends getting married, and they're getting married in the Caribbean, and they don't want it out publicly where they're getting married, but I'll tell you after when we get home. It's a destination wedding, which we've never done before. And so this is new for us, and we've never been to this part of the world. And so it's exciting. They wanted to get married on 4/24/24. And our anniversary is tomorrow, mine and Erica's. So we're celebrating our anniversary. We're celebrating their wedding. We're celebrating life and me not having to be in court, me in the trial. But that's where we're headed. So thank you for asking. And even though I'm not in court, as I said, I can follow from anywhere in the world. Although I don't think I'll be doing this every night, but as much as I can. Erica's given me permission to do this, so it's okay. Not that I really need permission, but she said it would be okay if I did this. What happens during breaks in the courtroom? Can Chad eat or cruise the internet? That's from Emily. So it's a little different this year. Last year during the breaks with Lori's trial, we could stay in the courtroom, and that was some of the most valuable time. You could watch Lori interact with her attorneys. You could see the prosecutors kind of in relaxed mode. You could chat with other people. This year they make us leave. We have to leave the courtroom. But the few breaks where I've been able to be in there, Chad cannot cruise the internet. He's got his laptop in front of him, and that's to review evidence. It as far as we're told, it doesn't connect to the internet. Now, the courthouse does have public Wi-Fi, so maybe he secretly has logged on, but I don't think it can. I think it's been disabled. And does he eat? I haven't seen him eat. But I understand that the jail brings, I might have to have you save me, honey, brings down a lunch every day that he eats during the lunch break. But during the breaks, no. Lori Vallow would sometimes have Coca-Cola, the full Coca-Cola, not like Diet Coke, and her attorneys. We saw her have that. And I think one day she had some M&Ms. Thank you, Emily. Good question. Will Chad be called as a witness in Lori's trial in Arizona? That was Jill. Oh, Jill, I don't know because he's not even really charged in connection to those crimes. So he could be, but I don't know. I got to quit coughing. So Erica, come in here. Everybody, look, Erica got a haircut. Doesn't it look so nice?
Sorry, my hair is wet. There's no makeup. We're just really real over here. So
yes.
There it is.
Okay, so what do you want to say? What have you thought about the trial so far? Share your thoughts.
Well, I will say, as I said in the comments over on Nate Eaton's channel that is being simulcasted, I've not had a chance to really follow Chad's trial because as our kids have gotten older, I'm just everywhere. So I'd love to watch you, but I have not kept very involved in Chad's trial. However, I have through friends who have called to ask me questions and say things and things that Nate tells me when I talk to him at night. So that being said, I do find this trial to be actually a little more interesting than Lori's. And this is, maybe I'm going to get in trouble for saying this is an unpopular opinion, but for me, I feel like there was a lot of manipulation, as we saw today in court, from Chad to Lori, and from a lot of people that Nate has talked to through the years, I guess truly years. 4+ years now. They said that Lori was not really fully like this until after Chad, like a little bit before that time period that things kind of switched for her. And so with Chad, I just would love to be in that mind for a minute to think, how could you get to this point that you could get involved in all of this?
His attorney would argue and say that Chad was not like this until he met Lori.
Well,
that Chad
maybe.
had never had a speeding ticket, or maybe one speeding ticket, lived a quiet little life in Rexburg, and then he met her. At least that's their defense so far, and it's throw Lori under the bus every time he can.
And you know what? No matter whatever happened and transpired, whether one was bad for the other, it doesn't matter because they were both, in my opinion, equally yoked in this situation. And I guess we'll see in court if the facts prove that. But this trial has been, this has been going on for years, and I always just feel for the family. I feel for Colby. That call always crushes me, and I hadn't heard it for a while, and I just think what kind of people could do this thing and say that they were doing it in the name of Jesus? And if you were, why would you have to lie about it? And why would you cover it up? And so there was an interesting point today that Nate and I, while we were driving, were listening to the trial. And it seemed like John Pryor was trying to to cast doubt on the James and Elena story, how people embellish things, kind of saying that they weren't, I don't know, did it seem to you like in a fully inappropriate relationship, that maybe that was just made up?
Right. Yeah. That he was an author, and so he took creative liberty to exaggerate the truth of it.
Because to me, I mean, we saw like the storage unit video where Chad is seen grabbing Lori's rear end and things like that, that I just, I told Nate, it's a good thing that I have never been called to testify on a crime, because I would be shouting, why don't you ask your person that you're defending this? Why don't you ask them?
During one of the questions, I don't remember what it was, she said to me, why doesn't Pryor lean over and ask Chad that?
Yeah, I would love to know.
I guess
why.
if Chad
what
takes,
was your intention,
if
right?
Chad takes the stand, maybe he will, maybe he won't, but I'm sure the prosecutors will.
I wasn't cut out to be a lawyer, apparently, so that's good for me.
Well, I think everybody has those questions, and remember, John Pryor, it's his job to cast any doubt he can to the jurors.
And I know he's doing his job, but
Right.
I have heard from several of you that if you hear the word okay one more time, you're going to go off and you can't watch the trial anymore, which I get. Everyone has a catchphrase, I guess, and that must
That's
be John
his.
Pryor's.
He does say okay a lot
And
after
now
the person answers.
You will only be able to
You'll
tune
only
into
hear
this
that he
because
says-
you'll hear it so often during the day you won't be able to listen to the trial anymore.
Right, he'll say okay. But you know, this is a different trial, as you mentioned. Another reason it might be more interesting is because we have a defense. Not that Lori didn't, but I've said this so many times. If Jim Archibald and John Thomas had truly been able to put on a full-on defense, and Lori would have said, "Go all out, say what you got to do, what you got to do," I think it would have been a different trial. I don't think it would have been a different outcome, but
I would agree with that.
we would have heard stuff that, I mean, she was so upset the day that Jim Archibald called Chad's books stupid. She was crying there in the courtroom. She wouldn't talk to him. She was just angry at her attorney. So that kind of shows you what type of person you were dealing with. You mentioned the call about Colby saying to his mom about Jesus. Did Jesus tell you this? When she was sentenced, she basically said that Jesus is her friend.
She did.
That Jesus, I mean, that whole thing was just jaw-dropping.
And I may have said this last year on a broadcast at some point talking about this, but as a mother, even to hear someone else's pain and to laugh at it, whether you think you're acting in Jesus's name or not, in the scriptures it says Jesus wept. I feel for people even when they make bad choices, right? That they have to go through something. And so to hear her kind of like, I mean, it was almost a cackle, just this is so preposterous when he's saying that you've killed all of my family. Right. You've left me an orphan. And she just laughs. It gives me the chills.
Right. That, I think, out of that whole call, I remember last year in court when they played that, it was like, she mocked her son. So that call, from what we had heard, was the last time they spoke, Lori and Colby. And then Colby saw her in court last year. And I remember as he walked in, she looked at him and said, "My baby." And he wouldn't even look at her. He sat on the stand. And at one point he did look at her and he went and turned away like in disgust.
Now, I will say, getting back to Chad's trial, something that I came to one day of the trial last year.
I keep telling her she should come again. But we're kind of busy. Yeah.
So I went on our anniversary actually last year. So today would have been the day I went to the trial last year. So anyway, that was the day they were talking about Tammy. And I have so many questions about that day. And that is one thing that I would like to hear in this trial. But I've been waiting for them to get to that information because I'm certain they have to have something else that they've been holding back. Maybe not.
I think so. I think because, the reason I say that, I have heard there is more coming. Not necessarily in relation to Tammy. With this case, there are more new things coming. They have to have a little bit more than they did with Lori on Tammy because they're charging Chad with her murder, and they didn't charge Lori with that.
But at Lori's trial, they did say that Chad was home.
Right.
He says that he was home the night that it happened. So I just am very interested to see, especially there was cross-examination by Lori's lawyers, but to see what John Pryor is going to say about that night, to see things, it was just surreal to me to listen to that testimony and to know he was there, and that will be an interesting thing
But also
to listen to.
the fact that the next day too, he's planning the next phases of his life. It's like, hurry, get this thing done, get it off the list. We got to move on. Martha Kelly, thank you very much for that.
And I did tell Nate this as well. If Nate was going around to conferences and telling everyone that I was going to die an early death, I would probably look at him and say, you tell one more person that and you're going to die an early death.
I wonder if Tammy knew. I'm going to have to do some digging and see. Because it is true that it's come out, several witnesses in this trial have said that before he even met Lori, before Chad met Lori, he was telling people this, that Tammy was going to have a young death.
And I wonder, I mean, if he's telling everyone else in the world, certainly that had to, we live in a very small town in Idaho. I feel that people talk about a lot of things that had to have gotten back to her, and maybe not.
Well, I don't know.
But I can't imagine someone saying that about me and that being okay.
You're going to live very long because you take much better care of your body than I do.
And not only that, he couldn't do all this without me, and he knows it.
No, I couldn't. I like to eat French fries every day.
So.
Someone's asking how we met because it's our anniversary.
Oh.
We met in Rexburg. I was a TV reporter. I had just graduated from college. Erica was going to school. Erica is from Richmond, Virginia. We were friends. She dated my roommate. She dated another news reporter, but we never dated.
And I did go to school for journalism, and then I realized I don't think I'm cut out for this.
So I got a job in Richmond, Virginia, where many of you are watching from, and I worked at the ABC station out there. I called her and said, hey, I'm moving to Richmond. Do you know anybody that needs a roommate? Because I was single, and she was able to connect me with a few people, and I moved into the laundry room of this home with a bunch of dudes.
Okay, he's missing an embarrassing detail. He also asked me if I thought that he'd be able to get married if he moved to Virginia. If he would meet a lady.
See, I knew.
And
anyway.
It was not going to be me, just so you know.
Yeah, so she was able to connect me with Daniel Vaughn, who watches every night, and I moved into his laundry room, which... It was a bigger laundry room, but the dryer was in the corner, and every night I'd lull myself to sleep with the dryer. Anyway, Erica needed an internship. She came and worked with me at the TV station. She decided that job wasn't for her. All of my colleagues, including some who were going to their wedding tomorrow, was like, why don't you date her? Come on. And then one thing led to another, and I couldn't stay away.
That's right. But we had known each other for years before we dated.
Yeah, so that was good.
So
we were friends.
It was nice because we were friends. I knew what I loved about him. I knew what annoyed me. And those things still stand today, but we still love each other just the same.
13 years?
It's 13 years tomorrow.
13 years.
Baker's dozen.
And 3 kids.
Don't send us any donuts, though. He would ask you to, but don't.
No. We're not home to get them. So when we get home, send them.
Don't send them to our kids. My poor sister, which can we shout that out? Is that okay?
Yes.
Bless you, Darcy. She watches most of the nights in Virginia. Thank you for watching our children. You are a wonderful sister, and we love you.
Get this. We're going to vent here for a minute. Man, we're going way off the rails. We paid extra to fly Erica's sister from Richmond to Idaho Falls. If you know the Idaho Falls airport, usually it's far cheaper to go to Salt Lake City, but then you have to drive 3 to 4 hours. So we paid American to fly her from Richmond to Idaho Falls and get in last night at 9.
Yes.
And that way we could leave this morning at 6. We had a 6 a.m. flight. So yesterday, the first part of the flight was delayed. Richmond
to here,
to Dallas was delayed 3 or 4 hours?
Yes. Which, for no crew. They had no crew to fly the plane.
For crew. That was the reason, crew.
Not that they didn't know that earlier, right?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they didn't.
Okay, well.
Then they said, okay, because of that, you'll miss your connecting. Great. Put her on the plane Monday morning. They said the next available seat is Wednesday morning. So she couldn't leave. She'd be in Dallas till Wednesday. Well, anyway, they ended up, we said, just go to Salt Lake.
Well, and they didn't offer her the Salt Lake option. I texted her and said, there is one flight that gets in tonight to Salt Lake.
At 12:30 a.m.
So technically today.
So she took it, and then she got in a rental, and drove to Idaho Falls and got it to our house at 4:30 this morning.
Technically 4, because I met her at 4 a.m.
As we were waking up to go to the airport, we then took the rental back to Idaho Falls. Anyway, I'm not bagging American. I did call American yesterday, and
I have some Karen-like things to say about American that I'll keep inside.
we flew American today, and it was
And
great,
it was
by the
great.
way. And
Yes.
for those of you that work at American, we know it's not your fault. But it just, if it had been our wedding today, I mean, it would have been a mess. And so I called, and they said it was a crew issue. I said, can we get a partial discount? We paid a couple $100 more to get her here. And they said, well, you can write an email to customer care. And I said, can I talk to customer care? And she goes, that department is not staffed. And I said, oh, you're having a crew issue there too? Anyway.
He was feeling a little salty. Nate is feeling much better today. He has been under the weather. And so I'm glad you're feeling
Yeah,
better.
now I'm going to be coughing all night. I'm sorry.
Can't wait for that. I did hear him coughing all last night. I did not sleep with him because he was so loud.
Yes. All right. Well,
thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following the news. News is important.
yeah. People are asking if Chad and Lori, but one last question, or back to our original topic. When will Chad and Lori get a divorce? I don't think they will. One, they're going to be locked up. Well, assuming Chad is found guilty, he will be locked up. And she's locked up, and I don't know if they'll just go through the procedure of doing it, unless Lori might find a new lover or something, meet somebody, and then she's or Chad, maybe that way they would file. But I do strongly think that they won't get a divorce. Maybe they will. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe in 5 years there'll be a reality show and they'll be in it. I don't know.
Can Lori testify? I'm sure they've covered this before. Could Lori testify in test trial?
She could testify. Anyone could testify, but she's a co-conspirator in the case, and I don't. Maybe the defense could call her as a witness. The prosecutor could try, but I don't. She could waive her Fifth Amendment. It could go bad.
Sure,
but it would be amazing if she did.
Chad would never try to get a divorce or push anything like that until something like that was off the table. In my opinion, that's all speculation.
Right.
He's going to stop coughing. We're going to call it
I better
a night.
go get some cough drops. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you sticking with the technical problems as we're here in a hotel with just a webcam, not the fancy setup. You can follow Nate Eaton, reporter, Nate News Now on Twitter, Twitter. I emphasize that. Meeting the Eatons is our family YouTube channel, and East Idaho News YouTube too. Big thanks to Caitlin Hart today, who really did. She knows how it feels now to have hurt wrists typing all day. Kalama Hines, to my colleague, will keep you up to date tomorrow. If we get to where we're going and we have reliable internet and it's going to be a different time zone, but the timing works out, we might pop on again this week. Let us know if you want to hear more. If not, I'll definitely be back Saturday, assuming all goes well on American Airlines, for the vigil for JJ and Tylee. And that's going to be at 1 o'clock Mountain Time in Idaho Falls at the Colonial Theater. All are welcome to come. First come, first serve on seating. We'll live stream it here, wherever you're watching. And then that night, we'll do a special edition of Courtroom Insider, a recap of everything that we missed, everything I missed this week. And then Sunday, back to Boise as the trial continues. And we go through more witnesses, so we'll have to see what happens. Okay, we done? Now if we can figure out how to log off.
That's right.
I think we hit that
Stop it.
button right.